Welcome back to the Millcreek Government Channel. I'm Jessica Stutzman. The Association for Needy and Neglected Animals, better known as the Anna Shelter, is a nonprofit, no-kill, open admission animal welfare organization. The Anna Shelter continuously provides stray, abused, and neglected animals with a safe, nurturing environment until their forever homes are found. With us today to discuss our furry friends is Anna's Animal Cruelty Investigations Supervisor, Eric Duckett. Eric, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Well, and I just realized that I've known you for a long time, but we've never had you on the show.
Yeah, we go, was it 2017 or so?
Yes,
I
think
at
so.
least
God bless
2017,
you.
Maybe even back to 14 or 15.
I think so too. And I think our conversations back then, I've adopted our dogs from the Anna Shelter, and back then we had Kona, and she was a neglected German Shepherd Husky, and you and I had a lot of conversations about her. And unfortunately, she was 13 and she lived a wonderful life. And she just passed away last year. So our family was looking to open our hearts again. And you guys helped us out with that. So I thank you because you deal with a really hard job every single day. And we're very, very lucky to have you in the community doing the hard work that you do. And then hopefully, like I said, the community can open their hearts and provide good homes.
Yeah, we have great support, and it's through stuff like this. We're always out in the community, so we have great support from everybody in the community, and we couldn't do it without the community.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So the first thing I want to mention is Erie Gives Day. Again, our community really shows up, I think, for the Anna Shelter and all of our local shelters. How did they support you guys during Erie Gives this year?
Once again, like you said, Erie Gives was wonderful to us once again this year. Mm-hmm. That's probably, it's turned into one of the biggest fundraisers for not only us, but probably all the nonprofits around mm-hmm. Erie. And we thank everybody who donated to Erie Gives because it does bring in a lot of that support that we need to continue doing our rescue missions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And to add to that, to the Erie Gives, you are just coming off of fabulous fall fundraisers, Dogtoberfest at Erie Brewing, and then you have some annual winter events coming up. Photos with Santa are my favorite.
Yeah, so this year, Dogtoberfest was a little under the weather this year, but that's okay. They made it do, and Erie Brewing was wonderful to us, mm-hmm. As usual. I don't even know, they've been doing that for maybe even 10 years now, mm-hmm. But that was a great event again, so that was a wonderful success. People love to bring their dogs out, dress them up in costumes and bring them out and enjoy good food and drinks mm-hmm. and stuff like that. And we also, it's the trick-or-treating has kind of morphed into this trunk or treat. So we did a few mm-hmm. of those trunk or treat events, and that was fun as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are a good time. And I will say that about all of your events, whether, because some of them are just, human fundraisers, and then some of them we can bring our pups back to.
I think the fall events are like always usually my favorite. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is about fall, but mm-hmm. It just seems like they always just seem to be so much fun.
Yeah. And before we get too far, actually, can we introduce the little baby in the studio here?
So this is Annie. She's our resident dog at the shelter. Mm-hmm. She lives in our office. If you come to the shelter, you'll see her, unless she's out on a visit. She does school visits with children. She does senior citizen visits. But she's just like absolutely wonderful, and she's mm-hmm. actually one of our rescue cases.
Oh, and do you want to give her backstory? She is gorgeous, and she does have a little limp. And do you want to explain what happened to her?
Yeah, so Annie has been with us for about a year or so, not quite a year maybe. It was last winter. It was probably about 20 degrees or so out. She came to us from Spartansburg. Her owner out in Spartansburg was unfortunately living in her car mm-hmm. and had passed away. So Annie was out there on the loose on the property, and with the help of the neighbors, we were able to catch her along with the 20 or so cats that were there. Unfortunately for her, she was hit by a car when she was younger. She's about 8 years old now, and her left back leg, as you saw earlier, is basically fused straight. So she does have like a stumpy leg there going on. So she has problems moving around, and we believe she also has some brain damage from being hit by the truck. So we've decided it's best that she just stays with us at the shelter. She's super sweet. You wouldn't even know that she was going to be this sweet when we got her. She was kind of feral, honestly, and so she's super sweet. The children that come to the shelter absolutely love her. She loves children, so she's honestly perfect. And for the namesake, Annie,
Yeah.
it kind of worked out.
It
So.
did. She's a doll. I absolutely love her. I was like asking, I'm like, can we take her home? And you were like, oh no, she's
Yeah.
she's the office dog, but I was
to take Annie
trying.
home, but yeah, she's really grown on us, grown on the girls at the shelter.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for rescuing her and giving her a wonderful life. So with the Anna Shelter Animal Cruelty Division, you're busier than ever. And
Yeah.
that's, that breaks my heart. When you see animal cruelty, animal neglect, what should people do?
We always urge people, whether you think it's serious or not, or you're just completely unsure, please reach out. You can reach us out. You can reach out to us by calling us at the shelter, 814-451-0230. You could reach me directly on my work cell at 814-572-5913. We have an Anna Shelter Cruelty page. You can message that page on Facebook. You can email me, eric@theannashelter.com. That's spelled exactly how it sounds. It's Eric, ERIC, at theannashelter.com. So we've, kind of, I guess, made it our goal to make it very easy to be accessible to the public. So anytime you have any kind of concerns, please reach out to us. We are more than happy to look into any concern.
And I appreciate that. It says that you have grown to cover Erie and Crawford County, are assisting the Pennsylvania state assisting Pennsylvania all over our state. And there were 300 cases in Erie County and 150 in Crawford County.
Yeah, so Crawford County over the last couple of years has kind of hovered between about 25 to 35% of our cases, and it's pretty much stayed that way since we started covering Crawford County. I've been in Crawford County, I want to say 3 or 4 years now, and Erie County I think is going on 7. So it's hovered that way. We're down in Crawford County a couple of times a week, depending on how busy the week may be. We cover all areas of Crawford County, all the way from Spartansburg to Titusville to Meadville, Lionsville, Cochranton, Springboro, all those little communities in Crawford County. And then of course, Erie County. We're in Erie County all the time.
Yeah, and one thing that Ruth and I have touched on in the past, and it sounds very simplistic, but what does it take to be a good dog owner?
That's a really good question. It does sound very simple, but in these days, I guess it's probably not so simple. But a good pet owner, in my honest opinion, is somebody one who not only loves their dog, but takes their dog to veterinarians for normal checkups, for annual vaccines, does stuff with your dog, has your dog active, whether that be walks. Obviously that would be the level of activity is different for each breed of dog, so that could be walks, that could be runs, that could be dog parks, anything like that. So I would say, I would, you kind of have to, it's kind of like having children, but maybe not so needy.
Yeah. Except for when they mine, I said my nose boops me at 4:30 in the morning, and I'm like, oh, it's not time to play ball yet.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
I
so
think
it's kind of
you're
like
right.
having children, you have to have your dog active, and you have to do things with your dog, and you have to get that energy level out of them. Otherwise, they do become mischievous and whatnot. So I would say, a lot of attention. It's not something so simple.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think, again, my experience with Kona was, that the neglect was the lack of veterinary attention that was given to her.
And that goes for all, all pets, whether it be cats, dogs, maybe not so much with like animals like turtles or snakes, but I mean, they obviously need vet care as well. Farm animals, we do service all kinds of domesticated animals. And over the years, we've had many cases like Kona. I know her as Cheyenne. When she was at the shelter, she completely had no hair.
Yeah. And now Ziggy too. I mean, she was found on the side of the road.
We've had Rocky, and other cases like Rocky. We currently have a cruelty case that's going to be going through the court system very soon, and that's with the Mastiff puppy that was discovered a couple months ago. We have a lot of cases like that with emaciation from lack of sustenance, basically just not feeding the dogs or cats. We do a lot of hoarding type cases where people have a lot of cats and dogs. So yeah, it's very busy.
Yeah, it is. So Eric, with this time of year and the snowier months are coming, how can we properly take care of our pets? How do we make sure that they're not getting, too cold? How do we be good dog owners?
So this time of year, usually when we see the weather shift, like you said, this time of year when the weather shifts cold, we get a lot of concerns about dogs not having proper shelter. In the summertime, usually May-ish, when summer finally starts to break in Erie, Millcreek, we get calls about dogs out in the sun or other animals out in the sun. So we want to make sure that animals have proper shelter in the wintertime because, it could certainly lead to death if they don't. A proper shelter for a dog, for instance, would be, a dog house. The dog house, you actually want the dog house not to be too large, basically just large enough that the dog can fit in there and get snuggled up. Fresh, dry straw. The dry bedding is very important. We see a lot of times where people are using blankets and whatnot. Blankets can absorb a lot of moisture from the air, if not rain, moisture out of the ground. So straw is the best thing to use, and it needs to be changed frequently to stay dry. A flap for the door on the dog house. And then of course, the dog needs to have plenty of area to roam outside of the dog house. So we ask that people use some type of chain link fence or those kennels that you can either get at Tractor Supply or other farm stores.
And you mentioned we are going into winter, but you mentioned the summer months. I think when in doubt, leave them at home is kind of the best rule of thumb, because I'm always really concerned about the car getting too hot.
And going back to the winter real quick, dogs also need they need access to water, and if that water is frozen, they don't have access to water. So I always recommend heated water bowls. They're very inexpensive these days, and then on top of that, you need to make sure that the dog can't tip that bowl over. So it's very important that dogs have access to water at all times, whether it be summer or wintertime.
Absolutely, yes. And that's true. When they tip it over, you may think they have a bowl full of water, but now it's all gone.
Yeah, and going back to your question about summertime, I mean, the summer heat can be just as detrimental to an animal as the winter cold. So again, it's important that the animal has proper shelter. Obviously, we don't focus on the straw and the door flap or the shelter at that point, but the dog needs to be able to get out of the weather. In the summertime, that can be anything from a covered porch, dog, and the weather can be the hot sun. The weather isn't just rain, sleet. The weather can be the hot sun. So the animal needs to be able to get out of the weather, stay cool, where the animal's not overheating, panting, and access to water again.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have continued success with Fix Erie, Anna's TNR partnership with Erie Animal Network and a couple other organizations.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so Erie Animal Network really is the driving force in that. We're kind of I guess the Fix part of Fix Erie. They're doing the legwork, going out and trapping the cats and stuff. and they have a wonderful set of volunteers who are making a big impact on the feral cat population. They're not removing cats. What they are doing is going out trapping, fixing, and releasing. So they're making a huge impact, and unfortunately, as big of an impact as they're making, there are a lot of feral cats in neighborhoods all over Erie and Crawford County. So we really ask that people be patient. If they are interested in getting that, I guess, service in their neighborhood, they can reach out to Fix Erie. I believe they do have a Facebook page. They can reach out to Erie Animal Network, but they would have more information on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for touching on that. Yeah. And so, again, back to specifically what you work with, what is the difference between animal enforcement and animal cruelty?
Yeah, I think that's, there's a lot of public confusion on that, and I really wanted to touch base on that, so I'm glad you asked me that. So animal enforcement, you can kind of look at this like, in layman's terms, animal cruelty is something that somebody is doing to an animal, so like neglect, cruelty, or animal enforcement is focused on somebody's animal running loose. They enforce rabies vaccines, dog licensing, whether that be through the county or the city. So animal enforcement is kind of like something the animal is doing, where animal cruelty is something that somebody is doing or the lack of care for an animal.
Okay.
So that's kind of this simple layman's way of putting it.
Yeah, that makes total sense, though. Yeah, I appreciate that. Because I think there are times where, and again, animal enforcement, the dog chews through the neighbor's wooden fence. The neighbor had the fence, but the dog chewed through it and got out. Now, how do, what I mean? We have to rectify
Yeah,
the
so
situation.
animal enforcement would focus on, one, picking up loose animals, two, enforcing, if that animal becomes a problem where it's always loose, then they would go and cite the owner of the dog. And so they focus on that aspect of things. Animals at large, like I said, rabies, aggressive animals, aggressive dogs, things of that nature, where I would focus on the neglect and abuse of animals.
Okay, got it.
But we do, many times, of course, our paths cross. There can be a lot of cases where there's animal cruelty violations along with animal enforcement violations.
The Anna Shelter is contracted to provide shelter services for strays found in the city of Erie. And then it also receives strays from the Erie County Dog Warden and wardens and state police from surrounding counties. Do you want to talk about that relationship a little bit more?
Yeah, so that would be the animal enforcement officer who is bringing, the city, for instance, the city of Erie refers to their animal enforcement as animal enforcement, where the counties are employed through the Department of Agriculture, and they are referred to as county dog wardens. Essentially, they do the same job. The city has a guy, and then the county has a guy, and Crawford County has somebody as well. And so we are contracted to receive all strays through the city. So when the city animal enforcement officer, Mr. Gary Richter, gets a call about a loose dog, he'll go out and he'll catch that dog and he'll bring it to us. And then we hold that animal for a minimum of 48 hours. Sometimes it's closer to 5 days, but 48 hours. So 2 to 5 days, we will hold that animal and, hoping that the owner of that animal comes in to claim them. And then from that point, if they don't, then they're put up for adoption, given any kind of vet care that they need, spayed, neutered, and put up for adoption.
Yeah, and I'm sure you always check for the microchip first.
Yep.
Do you find a lot of people that way, or?
Yeah. So we do, obviously. Yeah, we have a microchip scanner at the shelter, so the girls at the shelter will scan for microchip. In a lot of cases, like somebody like Gary, he covers the city, so he gets familiar with repeat offenders. So a lot of times, we tend to know who the animal belongs to. But yes, we do scan for microchip. And if you found a dog, any vet office can scan for the microchip as well. But we do scan for microchip, and basically what our scanner does is give us a number, and through that number, the way the number is oriented, we know which company the microchip is through, and we'll call and get the information and hopefully get that animal back to its owner.
Yeah, I mean, I think the microchip is so important, but we were just talking about how there's, definitely different GPS, the air tags.
The air tags, and there's other services as well.
Yeah.
I had heard about a year ago of a woman who had one on her cat. So there are different GPS devices that you can put on your animal as well, which is pretty cool.
It's our first time using one with Ziggy, and I absolutely love it. I joke like that my parents will come steal her, and then I'll be like, I think she's traveling on I-90, and so I call and I'm like, do you have the dog in the car? And they
She's
do,
doing
but
60 miles an hour.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, but it is really nice to have it on there because,
And I think that I can't really speak from experience, but the AirTag one through Apple is probably the most convenient because half the people have iPhones or iPads and whatnot.
Yeah. It's very, very easy, and I really love having it on.
Is it pretty affordable?
I think it's like $25, give or take. I mean, I think we buy them in multi-packs. So,
Okay.
but yeah, it's very affordable. And then the AirTag that we put into, it lays flat on her collar, so she doesn't even know, it doesn't bother her or anything.
Yeah.
And then if you're in the range of the dog, you can click find my item, and it starts to beep. So if you're anywhere near them, it starts to beep, and you're like, okay, there. I found
So
them.
those of you who have runners like Huskies or any other kind of breed that likes to take off, get online.
Exactly.
And
Do
get yourself
any
a
kind of GPS will work.
device.
The Anna Shelter is the first responder for the Erie and Crawford County 911 Center's pet emergencies.
Yes.
What does that entail?
So that entails basically anything from a car accident on I-90 or I-79, and the passengers in the vehicle had to be taken to the hospital, because we do get obviously we have these two interstates that go all over the country. So that could be anything from that, where we'll take that animal and hold them until a family member or that person is out of the hospital. It could be anything, we're set up for disaster relief as well. If there was ever to be a disaster in the area, we would be set up as a shelter for any kind of pets that were needed to be sheltered temporarily.
Wow. Those are just things you hope you never have to think about, but you guys do.
So and we get calls about horses, loose, stuff like that. So we're always, on standby to assist 911.
Yeah. And one thing I bet our viewers want to know is, how can they help? What can they do to volunteer? What can they do to donate? How can they help?
Yeah, so obviously the shelter requires a lot of manpower to operate, not only the shelter, but all of our different aspects, because we've kind of spread from the shelter. So the shelter requires a lot of manpower. Any kind of volunteering, donations. Volunteering can be anything from coming in and combing cats and dogs to helping out with laundry, helping out with basic cleaning around the shelter, cleaning projects. Thankfully, we have some really good volunteers who like to head up those projects. We're more than welcome to accept volunteer groups, whether that be college students, high school students. We frequently have a group of Erie Insurance volunteers that come in for service hours, which is wonderful. So volunteering can be anything from walking dogs, petting dogs, combing cats, dogs, to, like I said, doing laundry, cleaning kennels. We kind of leave it up to our volunteers to choose what they enjoy doing, because we want it to be an enjoyable experience for them as well.
Do you need any supplies, like dog beds, dog crates, food, cat litter? Do you need any supplies?
Yeah, so this time of year, going into winter, we're always in need of towels, blankets, extra blankets for the dogs.
Cleaning supplies, maybe?
Cleaning supplies. We go through bleach wipes a lot. Bleach wipes, any kind of cleaning supply, paper towels, bleach, laundry detergent, stuff like that is really what we use probably on a daily basis. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I just want to thank you so much for being here today, so much for bringing Annie. And
she's been a good girl
she
today.
has been a good girl. I'm so glad to have her here. She's like a little therapy dog on set for us
now you
today.
see why she's our shelter dog.
Yes.
She is great for
Yes,
stuff like this.
she is so sweet. So I just want to thank you both for coming today
you.
and providing our viewers with this information.
Thank you.
Viewers, we learned so much today from Eric, and I just wanted to share again the message that if you see animal cruelty or you see animal neglect, please don't hesitate to contact the Anna shelter and let them know so they can investigate. And other than that, I would definitely consider, donating any towels or cleaning supplies that you have in the house to the organization. They could greatly use it. Or if you want to foster one of their dogs or cats, I'm sure they are in need of foster homes as well. So I want to thank you for tuning into the Millcreek Government Channel, and until next time, have a great day.